I'm 20, male, born and raised in New Jersey. Dominican American. Spanish was my first language, but I've lived in the US my whole life. My mom, however, still thinks like we're back in the old country. So anyway, a few months ago my mom brings up this idea again that she mentioned years ago. Back then I laughed it off because I thought she was joking. Turns out she wasn't. Her plan? She wants me to fly to the Dominican Republic this summer, marry my third cousin, who's 19, and help her get US citizenship. Let me repeat that, marry my cousin. She even booked flights already. She's dead serious. She told me she doesn't care that I have a girlfriend here. It's not real, she said. This is family. When I pushed back, she got louder. Screaming. Threats to kick me out. The usual. I'm not close to my cousin. I've only met her a few times growing up. She's a good kid, does well in school, wants to study nursing in the US. But that's not my problem. I'm not marrying her. I already told my girlfriend everything. She's been supportive, even though she was understandably freaked out. It's not even about helping someone. This whole thing is a fraud. Mom says I marry her, we stay together for a year, and then divorce. Amicably. She handles everything. I just show up and sign papers. When I asked what happens if immigration finds out, she shrugged. Said people do this all the time. Then she said she'd pocket any money made from this. I don't even know what that means. I tried refusing again last week and she slapped the kitchen counter so hard a glass broke. Told me if I didn't go, I could pack my things and leave. She says I owe her because she raised me alone. She won't hear anything else. I haven't renewed my passport, and I won't. I'm hoping that's enough to delay the whole thing. Flights or not, you can't go anywhere without a passport. I'm pretending to go along with it until I figure out my next step. I don't have anyone I can trust in my family. They're either backing her up or staying quiet. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. But I'm not marrying my cousin. That's not happening. After I made that post, things got worse before they got better. About 2 weeks later, my mom started asking me daily if my passport had arrived. I told her the renewal was delayed because of the pandemic. That bought me time. In reality, I never even applied. I shredded the form. She started acting weird. Talking on the phone in hushed tones, calling relatives back home. One night I overheard her telling someone that I was just being dramatic, and that I'd get over it once I got there. That same week, I talked to my girlfriend again. She told me, flat out, "You either stand up to her now, or this will never stop." She was right. I'd been avoiding the fight, hoping it would blow over. It wouldn't. So I went to stay with a friend from college. Just for a couple days, I told my mom. Took my laptop, my clothes, and my documents. I didn't plan to come back. While I was gone, she blew up my phone. Messages, missed calls, voicemails yelling at me in Spanish. Then she started messaging my girlfriend directly on Instagram. "Tell him to come home. He's throwing his life away." I blocked her number. Changed my email. Told my landlord I'd be subleasing my room and moved in with my friend permanently. A week later, I got a call from a random number. It was my aunt. She said my mom had gone to the airport alone. She actually flew to the DR without me. She still expected me to show up later and make things right. I guess she thought guilt-tripping me from another country would work. It didn't. She came back a month later. Still angry. Said I had disgraced the family. I told her I wasn't going to be part of a scam. And I wasn't going to marry someone just because she said so. That's when she kicked me out officially. Told me not to come back ever. For a while I couch-hopped. Slept in my friend's guest room, picked up shifts at a coffee shop, and barely scraped by. But honestly, that was the most peace I'd had in years. Fast forward to now, it's been almost a year since all that happened. I'm still low contact with my mom. We only talk about my younger sister. She's still trying to guilt me, but I don't respond anymore. My cousin? She ended up getting a student visa on her own. She's actually in Miami now, enrolled in a nursing program. We don't talk, but I hear updates through the family grapevine. My mom's still bitter. Says it would have been easier if I had just done what she asked. But I'm not interested in easy. I'm interested in having a life that's actually mine. Next story. This happened about a month ago, but it spiraled more recently, so I figured I'd write it all out. I've been allergic to gluten for around 5 years. It's not celiac, but it can cause serious reactions, including anaphylaxis. I've gotten used to managing it when I eat out. I know what I can and can't risk. I don't eat fried food anymore just to be safe, and I never cause a scene. I just order simply and clearly. Last month, I went out to eat with some friends. We picked a mid-tier casual spot in Westfield called Denny's Tap. I ordered a cheeseburger, no bun, subbed the fries for steamed veggies. Pretty standard for me. The plate came with fries and a bun. I told the waitress I was allergic to gluten and asked if it could be remade. She rolled her eyes and said potatoes don't have gluten, and I could just take the bun off. I told her I was okay waiting and didn't need to be prioritized, but the meal did need to be remade. She left without saying much. When the new plate came out, it was in a takeout box with the check already attached. I didn't argue. I was heading home anyway and figured I'd just eat it there. But on the bill, I was charged for 2 meals. Both had substitution fees. I took it to the bar and explained what happened. The bartender was polite, took 1 meal off, and I tipped her in cash. I decided I wouldn't eat there again, but I didn't tell anyone. Fast forward to last weekend. My family came over and wanted to order in. They specifically suggested Denny's Tap. I said they could go ahead, but I'd order from a different restaurant nearby and pick up both. I thought it was a pretty simple compromise. They all looked at me like I said I was converting religions or something. My brother laughed and said, "Still doing that gluten-free thing?" My mom told me she thought I was past my diet phase, and that avoiding gluten wouldn't help me lose the weight I've gained. I wasn't even talking about my weight. I explained I had a medical reason, reminded them about the restaurant messing up my order, and told them it wasn't personal. They doubled down, saying I was being immature and making it harder for everyone just because I didn't want some carbs. I dropped it. Went and picked up my food from a place next door to Denny's Tap. Funny enough, they used the same generic brown takeout boxes. When I got back, everyone made comments like, "See? Same food, same box." And, "You're being dramatic, it's not that serious." My sister called me a Karen and said I needed to stop acting like I was special. I didn't say anything else. Ate my meal. Went home. I didn't think it was a big deal at first. But apparently that was just the beginning. A week after that dinner, I started noticing weird comments in our family group chat. My mom sent a photo of some lasagna she made captioned, "Homemade and 100% gluten," followed by 3 laughing emojis. My brother replied, "Don't let my name see that, she might call the manager." At first I ignored it. Thought maybe they were just being dumb. But then it kept happening. Anytime someone shared food, someone would make a gluten-related joke. My sister once posted a pic of a bakery cupcake with the caption, "Bet this would send someone into shock." They all laughed. I messaged her privately and told her it wasn't funny. She left me on read. Last week, I went to visit my dad's side of the family. My cousin mentioned something my brother had posted on his Instagram story. Apparently, he shared a screenshot of a meme about gluten-free people being the new flat earthers. And added, "Looking at you, sis." That's when I got annoyed. I sent a message in the group chat and just said, "I don't find the jokes funny. I've explained that this is a medical issue, not a preference. You don't have to believe it, but I'd appreciate if you'd at least respect it." No one replied for hours. Eventually my mom wrote, "You're being oversensitive. No one's attacking you." My sister added, "Maybe you'd get fewer reactions if you didn't act so high maintenance." I left the group chat. I didn't block anyone, but I stopped replying to texts. Only responded if someone contacted me directly and was respectful. I haven't seen most of them since. My aunt, dad's side, reached out and said I was right to step away. She told me something I didn't know. My mom has been telling extended family that I invented a food allergy to control my eating, and needed a new identity after her divorce. That part kind of stunned me. So yeah, it's not about the burger. It's about how casually people dismiss something important to you when it's inconvenient for them. I never asked anyone to change their food or stop eating gluten. I just wanted to be left alone to manage my own plate. Apparently that was too much. I'm a 51M. My daughter Emily, 24F, just moved back into my house about 6 weeks ago after leaving a 3-year-long relationship. For context, Emily met a guy named Kyle in early 2020, just as COVID was kicking off. I didn't like him from day one. He was charming in that forced way that set off red flags. 2 months into dating, he wanted her to move in. I told her it was too fast. She said I was being controlling. A few weeks later, she called me and said she was cutting off people who weren't supportive of her relationship. That included me. I told her I didn't like how fast things were moving, or how she was isolating herself from family. But ultimately, I told her I loved her, and that my door was always open if she ever needed anything. Then I didn't hear from her again for over 2 years. 3 months ago, I got a call from an unknown number. It was her. She was crying, panicked. She said I was right about everything. She said Kyle had hit her. She said it had gotten worse over time, verbal stuff, controlling her finances, then isolation, and now physical abuse. She asked if she could still come back. I told her yes, of course. That offer had never expired. A few days later, I drove down to their apartment in Mississauga while Kyle was at work. I helped her pack what little she could carry, and we left. When I saw her, I was shocked. She looked like a different person. She had bruises on her arms and neck. She had lost a ton of weight. Her voice was weak. She flinched when I moved too quickly near her. First thing we did was go to a walk-in clinic. I wanted everything documented. The doctor said her BMI was 15. Said we were close to a hospitalization threshold, but not quite. No head trauma. No broken bones. But there were signs of recent strangulation, a black eye, and bruises on her ribs. I asked her if she wanted to press charges. She said no. I didn't push. But I asked the clinic to document everything and gave them permission to release the records to a lawyer if needed. I also took photos. At home, I set up the guest room for her. For the first few days, she barely came out. I cooked meals based on the diet plan the clinic recommended. She kept apologizing for not being able to eat much. I told her not to worry about it. Then, about a week after she moved in, she came into my bedroom at around midnight. She was in pajamas. She said she couldn't sleep and asked if she could stay in my room. I told her it was unusual, but she said it made her feel safe. She reminded me that she used to sleep in our bed when her mom was still alive, and she had nightmares as a kid. That hadn't happened since she was maybe 7. But I didn't want to make her feel ashamed or like she couldn't ask for comfort, so I said okay. She curled up beside me and fell asleep quickly. The next night she did it again. Then the next. She stopped sleeping in her own bed entirely. She started asking me to spoon her when she was falling asleep. I didn't know what to say. It felt weird, but she seemed scared to sleep alone. We had already booked a therapist, but the first available session wasn't for 2 weeks. I figured I'd just keep her safe and wait for the therapist's advice. I'll be honest, I don't know what's normal in situations like this. I didn't want to make her feel like she had nowhere to go for comfort, but I also didn't want to create something unhealthy. I posted about it anonymously. Some people said it was trauma response. Some said boundaries were important. A lot of people told me she needed a trauma-informed therapist ASAP. She finally saw the therapist a couple weeks later. That's when everything changed again. So we got in to see the therapist, finally. It was a trauma-informed woman recommended by another professional. Emily talked with her one-on-one first. Then I joined them for the second half of the session. The therapist confirmed what a lot of people online had said. Emily's behavior was consistent with regression from trauma. Reverting to old childhood patterns, wanting safety and physical closeness, especially during sleep, was common in DV survivors. She also said it was important to have boundaries, but they had to be introduced carefully, with support and without shame. We agreed on a transition plan. Emily would start trying to fall asleep in her own room a few nights a week, but if she had nightmares or couldn't sleep, she could come to me, just knock first. We also agreed no spooning or cuddling. I explained that it wasn't appropriate for either of us long term. She didn't push back. She actually seemed a little relieved it was being addressed directly. After that, things started to level out. She had another few bad nights that first week, but gradually started spending more time in her own space. I took a leave of absence from work so I could be around. Not just for her, but also because we had no idea what Kyle would try next. He didn't take the breakup well. He started texting her from burner phones. When she blocked one number, another would show up. Then came the fake Instagram accounts. She kept getting DMs saying things like, "You think you're safe now?" And, "I know where you are." Most of them didn't use his name or photo, but they were clearly him. I installed a Ring camera. I also changed the locks and got some home defense options I won't detail here. I documented everything. Then one night, about 2 weeks after her therapy started, he showed up. I was in the kitchen and my phone pinged. He was standing at the front door. Hoodie, hands in his pockets, pacing. I told Emily to go to the guest room and lock the door. I spoke to him through the Ring mic and told him to leave. He just stood there. I called the police. They came within 12 minutes. Longest 12 minutes I've had in years. When they arrived, he told them he just wanted to talk to her. They told him to leave and not come back. That was it. No arrest. No real consequence. Just a warning. That's when Emily decided to press charges. I got a lawyer. We submitted the medical records, the photos, the burner phone screenshots, the social media messages, the Ring footage. The lawyer talked to the DA, and eventually charges were filed. We also got a temporary restraining order. A permanent one is pending. Since then, things have stabilized. She's eating normally again. We've followed the refeeding guidelines. Her weight is up. She's still in therapy twice a week with the abuse specialist. I'm continuing my own sessions too, and we're also doing joint therapy. There were unresolved issues between us after her mom died that made her more vulnerable to someone like Kyle, and we're working on them. As for the sleeping situation, she's now in her own bed full-time. Still has nightmares. Sometimes she knocks on my door, just to talk. That's fine. But no more co-sleeping. That part is over. Kyle hasn't shown up again. The police now have enough to charge him if he violates the order. I check the cameras daily. So far, nothing. This has been the hardest stretch of parenting I've ever had. But I'm glad she came back. I'm glad she called me. I'm glad I answered. And if any other parents reading this ever get that same call, answer it. Next story. I've been with my husband Aaron since high school. We met when we were 15, and we got married at 25 right after our first daughter was born. Neither of us had been with anyone else, romantically or sexually. We basically grew up together, and I figured that meant we understood each other better than most couples. Things shifted after our first kid, and even more so when I gave birth to our twin boys a few years later. Between 2 full-time jobs, daycare schedules, a cramped apartment, and trying to pay off student loans, there were years where we were barely getting by. We went through marriage counseling, budgeted like crazy, leaned on family for babysitting, and eventually managed to buy a small house once the twins were in kindergarten. By then, things had calmed down a bit. We weren't exactly in a honeymoon phase, but we had monthly date nights and had gotten into a decent rhythm. I thought we were in a good place. Then one night, during dinner after a date, Aaron asked if I'd ever regretted us getting together so young. I thought he meant, "Do you wish you had gone to more parties? Or dated more people?" I said yeah, kind of, but only because I wondered what it would have been like to experience dating in college or travel solo. That was it. He took that as an opening to bring up the idea of an open relationship. I was stunned. I said no immediately. It felt like a weird left turn in our marriage. But he didn't let it go. Every other week, he'd bring it up again. He'd send me videos and articles about ethical non-monogamy and couples who said it saved their marriages. It got to the point where I dreaded date nights because I knew what topic would come up. After about a year of this, I gave in. I said okay, but I had conditions. We agreed on protection, regular STD testing, no dating coworkers, and zero tolerance for surprise pregnancies. But my main condition was this. I wanted us to film a video together, sitting side by side, clearly stating we both consented to opening the marriage. Just in case. I'd read stories online where someone got outed to family or friends, and the other spouse pretended they never agreed to it. Aaron hated the idea. He said it was paranoid and unnecessary. I told him it was non-negotiable. I want proof, I said. Otherwise, this doesn't happen. He offered a written document instead. I said no. Videos are harder to dispute. He called it weird and controlling. I stood my ground. That's when the argument started. He'd accused me of being selfish, of moving the goalposts, of not really caring about his needs. I reminded him that this whole situation was his idea, and I was doing something I never wanted just to meet him halfway. Eventually, he dropped it. Or at least, I thought he did. For a while, things were quiet. Too quiet. Until one night, after a fight about the video again. He stormed out of the house and didn't come back until the next afternoon. He didn't answer texts or calls. I was pacing the house when I heard a notification from the old iPad we'd planned to give to his niece. I realized it was still synced to his phone. I knew I shouldn't look. But I did. And what I found broke everything. The iPad was buried under a stack of papers in the hallway cabinet. We were planning to wipe it and give it to his niece, but it still had access to his iMessages. I clicked into the thread that had just pinged. It was from a contact saved as Tasha W. I recognized the name. She works with him. The messages went back months. It wasn't work talk. It wasn't casual. It was flirtation, then sexting, then pictures, most without faces, but not anonymous enough. I recognized his body. One of hers had a mirror behind her. There was a small tattoo on her shoulder. I'd seen it once during a work barbecue. In the middle of the thread, they'd been joking about me. Not just light jabs, full-on mocking. He complained about how I let myself go after the kids. Made comments about stretch marks and breastfeeding. Said I was boring and obsessed with being a Pinterest mom. I kept reading. Another thread, his cousin Nate. He'd sent Nate a Tinder screenshot and said, "Finally got her to agree, sort of. No vid though, she's being dramatic." Another message. "Can't wait to actually sleep with someone who doesn't smell like baby wipes." I didn't finish reading. My oldest son came out of his room and saw me sitting on the hallway floor. He asked if I was okay. I told him I was just tired and took him back to bed. The next morning, my daughter made me toast and peeled a tangerine and told me she wanted to cheer me up. That's when I decided I was done. After they went off to school, I started Googling lawyers. I checked our state's divorce laws, looked into documentation rules, and made phone calls on my lunch breaks. No one knew. Not even my closest friend. When Aaron came back that afternoon, I asked nothing. He showered. I told him, "You can open the marriage. No video needed." He looked surprised, then happy. Too happy. Suddenly he was nice again. Talkative. Joking. Acting like everything was fine. I nodded along. Over the next few days, he created a Tinder account and showed me his profile. Like it was a game. Like I was supposed to be impressed. I smiled, said, "Cool," and went back to washing dishes. He doesn't know I've got a folder on my laptop now. Screenshots. Photos. Dates and times. Lawyer notes. The works. I plan to file soon, when the timing makes the most sense for my finances and the custody filing. Once it's official, I'll tell family and friends he broke our marriage agreement and that I never consented to anything. I'll keep it vague. Let him flail around trying to defend himself with, "But she said I could." As far as the world will know, he cheated. And honestly, I don't care if that makes me a liar. He wanted freedom. Now he'll have it. Alone.